Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my deep dive into an intriguing and intense and electrifying sometimes deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And so if you are, just in case you are new to the channel and you have not seen an episode of this deep dive before, let me give you a brief rundown. Every day, every night, I shuffle my mass market version of the Egyptian Tarot and I pull a daily draw card. I pull a card asking the question, what would I benefit from giving my attention to in the following day? And I pull the card and then I find the matching card in my out of print and gray and white version of the deck, and I look at them. I notice the differences, and I notice where they are similar. They're generally very similar. And then I ask for help from another deck, the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. And this is a deck that I have been working with for about 6 months now, since I did a deep dive into that deck about 6 months ago. And so I'm both more familiar with, though not fluent in it, and yet and because of that, perhaps, I'm not ready to put it down yet. I really want to continue working with it. So I'm using that deck as my helper deck for this deep dive. And I pull a 3-card spread. Yeah, I pull a 3-card spread, the first card being the significance of the daily draw card for me for that day. The second card being the challenge, which could be positive, something to strive for, something to aim for, or an obstacle kind of challenge. And then the third card is advice to wrap it all up. And so then I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and I live my day. And then at the end of the day, I come back and I look at the cards and I do my analysis and determine whether or not the attributes, the meanings have revealed themselves for me during that day or not. And if it seems to you that I'm a little bit more fluent than I have been recently, it could be because I've gotten a lot of sleep today. I went to sleep early the night before, and I also took a nap in the afternoon, and so I'm a little bit more coherent than I have been in the last couple of weeks. I'm getting a little bit more used to the camp life and the schedule here, so that could be part of that as well. So here I am. And so that's what I do, and that's what I did, and here we go with the video. So let me show you the daily draw card for us right now. If you've been following along with me on this journey, you recognize this card, right? We've gotten this card, this is the third time that we've gotten the 9 of Swords. And I still love the card. I love the triangularity of it. I love that there are 3 groups of 3 swords all pointing up to the heavens. Now, let me show you the cards together again. They're very similar in the 2 decks. The number of stars in the constellation are, again, a little different, but basically similar. And you can see that this is the 9 of Swords, and the attributes to this card are, Taurus and Virgo, right? Taurus and Virgo, and the planet down there at the bottom is Venus, which is interesting. And it comes from Taurus, right? Because the 9 of Swords points to the Taurus decanate of Virgo and its sub-ruler Venus, from which the fixed aspect of mutable earth vital attributes enter our world. Yeah, I just checked my cards and noticed that I've been drifting. The fixed aspect of mutable earth vital attributes enter our world as Venus beams her beautiful energy through the Taurus decanate of Virgo, through the house of Virgo, into our charts, into the world, into the question that we have asked for this tarot card draw. Right? So, now again, if you've been here before, you've heard that this constellation here is the Corona Borealis. And the Corona Borealis is imagined as like a laurel wreath or a garland or something that one would wear in one's hair. And this garland was a gift from Dionysus to Ariadne. Now, do you remember who Ariadne is? We've heard about her a couple times now. She's the one who gives Theseus the thread of Ariadne. The thread of Ariadne is the thread that Theseus used when he went into the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur so that he could find his way back out. Yeah. So Ariadne was the helper to Theseus, and then they had maybe a fling, maybe a relationship, or maybe he got interested in her and he got scared off, or maybe one of the gods said, "You better not touch that lady." One way or the other, he leaves Ariadne on the island, the Isle of Naxos, and it is there that she meets the god Dionysus, and Dionysus gives her this wreath as a sign of affection, we assume, and then that wreath becomes this constellation in these cards. So we got that idea of laurel wreaths and the gifting of honor and recognition, and perhaps as either compensation for loss and the breakup, or to win affection, which is interesting. Particularly since we've got Venus here beaming through Virgo in the Taurus decanative of Virgo. So we've got the fixed aspect in Taurus with the beauty and relationship and joinings of Venus. In the practical, the what do we call it? The mutable Earth sign of Virgo. And I'm pausing because I confuse Virgo and Venus a lot. I substitute them right and left, and it's just the way my brain has wired itself. And I'm trying to detangle those, and I'm becoming a little bit more successful, but still, every so often, I've got to be careful because I want to say Virgo and Venus comes out, or I want to say Venus and Virgo comes out. Usually it's the other way around. Now, what does this mean, though, for us? The guidebooks that describe this card in this deck, you know, if you have been following along, that the swords are an earth suit in this deck. That's why we've got Taurus. That's why we've got Virgo. And it points to renunciation, perhaps like the renunciation of Theseus renounces his relationship with Ariadne. It could be perfectionism in relationships. It could be feeling that you know better, like a good Virgo would, right? It could be quarrels which lead to animosity. It could be the need for careful treatment of others because we can be perhaps overpowering. We can be too fixed. We can be a little bullish like a Tauran might. It could be that our fixed attitudes limit our achievement, that we've got this rigid, not Venusian, Virgoan structure that we've planned out for the way things should be happening, and that could limit our potential. Sometimes it helps, but sometimes it limits us. It could be arguments which drain our energy. It could be love overcoming arguments instead, because we do have Venus is the key player here. And so before we move into the helper cards, the cards that are going to help me unpack this meaning, let me just mention that I did notice myself feeling perturbed by the relationships a little bit today. Feeling a little bit neglected, not respected in a way that I feel like I'm giving respect to others in some instances. I definitely feel I've been helped, but I also felt that while I was helped by some people, I also felt at the same time a little bit disregarded by them in very interesting ways. So there were some hints of that kind of potential, not arguments, but potential relational friction, dissatisfaction, for want of a better word. Yeah, and probably as a reflection of my perfectionist tendencies, which I do have. So there you go. So that's the beginning of what I got out of this card. But I think that this card is not speaking to me solely of today. And I'll get to that in a little bit, hopefully, if I remember. And it looks like I'm remembering pretty well today. So let's move on to, oh, I didn't show you that Corona Borealis thing, did I? Let me show you that Corona Borealis star system right now so you can compare. Here is the one on the card. Ta-da! Here's the one in the sky. So after I showed you the star system, the Corona Borealis constellation, I then showed you the 3-card draw that I pulled to help me unpack the 9 of Swords, which was my daily draw card, right? So you saw them in order. And it was interesting if you've been following along. I got the Ace of Wands upright, the 7 of Wands reversed, and then the 10 of Wands. Now, why is that interesting? Well, just yesterday, I had the Ace of Wands reversed. And I've had the 7 of Wands show up, it wasn't yesterday, but I think the day before. So in addition to the 9 of Swords in the Egyptian Tarot, which has shown up a few times, the Ace coming in consecutively, reversed and then upright, was, I think, significant. And of course, all 3 of those are Wands, which is also significant, as a way of unpacking this earthy card of the 9 of Swords. So what do we have here? Let me show you this Ace of Wands right now. Now, the first time I saw this, and the second time I saw this, and frankly, even the third time I saw this card, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, that must be the Ace of Discs. Do you see why? Well, it's not the Ace of Discs. It is the Ace of Wands. And then we can see at the bottom that there is fire there, meaning that this is a fire suit, meaning it's a wand, right? We have the wand of the sapling growing up into the flowering disc above. Beautiful card. And you can see at the bottom, we have the attributes of Aries and Mars, right? Because this is the Ace of Wands, which points to the Aries decanate of Aries, and its subruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire, vital attributes, enter our world and enter the response to the questions we're posing when we pull these cards. This card. And there's a Latin thing around here, which I forgot to retranslate. But it's the idea of water and fire merging and coming together to create a balanced, an alchemical creation. Where am I going? Yes, we have the hand holding the plant. We have the disc of wisdom, or the disc of alchemical knowledge, or the disc of hermetic mystical information. I'm trying to figure out where am I going with this. That disc, this beautiful disc of the star and the Latin and the zodiacal signs around it, and the planets in the center, and the sun in the morning and the moon at night. This beautiful disc is hovering there, looking to me like a flower on this branch, this sapling. And of course, it isn't a flower on the sapling, but that's what my eye sees the first time I see this card, until I look carefully and, oh, no, that isn't really a flower there. That plant is very separate from the disc behind. And still, that's the first thing I see. So we've got supersized Aries, right? We got the Aries decanate of Aries. The first decanate of every sign is that sign. So it's Aries of Aries. And Aries is cardinal fire. So it's the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire. And the planet for Aries is Mars, so it's in its domicile. It's beaming right through its home, right into our lives. And so as the Ace of Wands, of fire, of beginnings, of saplings which are beginning to germinate, it's the first step of a new journey. It can be our will pushing through to do its work, like a sapling pushes through the earth to find the sun. It's fresh energy. It's the continued need to focus, though. Yeah, it's not like, oh, we flipped the switch and now everything will automatically unfold, which is how often I think we think of seeds once we've planted them and they've germinated. We think, oh, it'll automatically all unfold because that's its nature to do. And yes, it is, but it still needs care and tending by the divine, at least, if not the rest of nature. And it depends on what kind of ground we've planted it in. It could be a very natural, easy blossoming and a natural process of unfoldment, but it might not be. It might be something that really does require care and tending, like an orchid might. And I'm not a gardener. Just something I happen to know is that some orchids, especially, I think, both Western and Eastern orchids, ask for a lot of care because they've been pulled out of their natural environment, and we've influenced their development. We've modified their development to our tastes, and because we've done that modification, they ask for more tending. So that could be that kind of thing that we want to remember here. We want to focus on our desire, our plans, to clear the obstacles, to clear the things that could damage the newly sprouting desire, the newly sprouting creative action, the newly sprouting new life, right? And we want to empower ourselves too. This is also a time for self-empowerment. It's the first step to manifestation into the physical plane, right? This is, if we think of the ones, the monad, the singular, which goes through the tree of life down to Malkut, the manifestation. Now, this is that first step. And it's the first step of the first tree. The way I imagine it is there are 4 trees. Well, a lot of people imagine it that way. And the way I learned it and the way that it's been organized in my brain is that the trees do link up, and the trees begin with the fire, and they move to water, and then they move to air, and they move to earth, being the last tree. And so each tree goes from the first of Keter to Malkut, but then it links up somewhere in the middle to the next tree for example, from fire to water, would link up to the Keter of water, and then water goes down to Malkut. But somewhere in the middle of the water tree, it would link up to the Keter of air and then move down to Malkut. And then somewhere in the middle of you see what I'm saying. So this being the fire, this is the first of the first in my mind. It's the first step of manifestation into the physical plane, because it starts going down into Malkut and then drops down into water and then drops down into air and then drops down into earth, which is really earth. And then we get to the earth of earth in Malkut of the earth tree, and that's, here we are. So from absolute potential flows into the initial movement to the kinetic state. No matter our age, and we want to remember that no matter our age, no matter our experience, no matter what, there are still untapped potentials that this card can be reminding us to search out and feel for and begin nurturing. And in this spot as being like remember, this is also the first sign of the zodiac, right? This is the first decade of the first sign of the zodiac. So Mars is still here, focused and balanced. It hasn't started bouncing off the walls yet or gone off to attack. So Mars is still balanced and focused and has a lot of potential here, which is cool. And so this is helping me to unpack this energy of the work that I am perhaps doing, and wanting to be careful of feeling like I know better, that I want to avoid quarreling, which could escalate to animosity, and that love will overcome the potential discord of this card. But still, with this card is in the sphere of new beginnings and manifestations and startings of things. Because this card is unpacking that card. This is the significance of the significance of that card for me. So we got the Ace of Wands. And then as far as the challenge goes, the thing that could get in my way of that potential of the Ace of Wands, we have the Seven of Wands. And let me show you that card upright first. Here's the upright. Beautiful card, yes? And the Ace of Wands is Aries again, but here we have the Aries decadent of Sagittarius. It's not Aries of Aries, it's Aries of Sagittarius. But we still got Mars. So what is this saying? This is saying that the Seven of Wands points to the Aries decadent of Sagittarius and its sub-ruler Mars, again Martian energy, from which the cardinal aspect of mutable fire, vital attributes enter our world. Now we've got the cardinal aspect of the mutable fire of Sagittarius. And because this is the second decadent of Sagittarius, we also have the possibility of reading both complement and detriment. Upright, we would be reading complements, which would be Jupiter in in Virgo. As a reversed card, we have Jupiter in Gemini. And you know what? I'm starting to be able to figure that out without looking at my charts. It takes me a minute or two, but still, I'm able to figure that out without looking at my charts. I haven't gotten to exaltations yet. The decks haven't been giving me exaltations and falls yet, thank God, because that requires another set of memorizations, yeah? The exaltations require the memorization of a small, easy chart to memorize, but still, it doesn't flow as naturally, to my mind, at least yet, as the domiciles and the similars or the complements and the detriments. I can figure those out logically, just from thinking of the decadent of the sign. Now, a little bit, with time. So, be that one thing, that's really neither here nor there, but let's look at the card again. What do we have? We've got this path, which is blocked by 7 wands, and there are signs and sigils on the tops of those wands, and behind those wands we see a path that continues, but it's darker. We don't really see where it's going. And we get the idea of our path being blocked, things being blocked, perhaps needing to find new ways around things or figuring out a plan B, another course of action, maybe how we may be potentially limiting our own progress. Those are some of the things that come with the Seven of Wands in this deck. In reverse, we have another thing, because here we have Jupiter in Gemini, for one thing. And Gemini is an immature sign of the zodiac, and Jupiter comes in, and the short attention span of a Gemini confuses Jupiter a little bit. Jupiter's expansiveness and luck and abundance in that unfocused way gets shaken up a little bit. So here we have the idea of false starts. You start something that really had no potential to get going in any direction. False starts, right? It's a reminder that also that we may need to develop our patience. Yeah, patience, time, and self-discipline are called for to pass this current obstacle, something which perhaps Gemini is a little bit lacking in. And we find ourselves stuck. If we find ourselves stuck, we have probably allowed our limiting beliefs to overwhelm our intention, rather than our intention to overcome, allowing our intention to overcome our own limiting beliefs. So in reverse, these reversed wands could be our own limiting beliefs, right? It also is an interesting thing that we might want to beware our own smugness. The gifts that we have, our talents, or the synchronicities that have caused these wonderful beginnings to happen. Remember, beginnings, right? These wonderful beginnings, these startings here, those gifts that we have, those talents or the synchronicities that have allowed that, do not make us invincible. Do not make us invisible. Do not make us invincible to the course of worldly events. So we want to be careful of our smugness, of hubris, and keep aware of where we are and where we're going, and how well we are taking advantage of the wonderful power of intention that we have access to. So this card in reverse is also asking us to seek real accomplishments that can make a difference in ours and other people's lives. It's remember we're doing all of this in a co-creative environment and as a co-creative act. We came here to co-create. And so we want the things that we accomplish to be not for our own aggrandizement, but rather to benefit the community as well. As I uplift others, I uplift myself. As I uplift myself, I want to also uplift others. I want my thing to be a good thing for other people too. Right? That's the best way of the world. And that's what this card is reminding us of. And so that's a challenge. That part is a challenge as something to strive for, to aim for, to make sure that the things that we are nurturing and the things that we're tending and growing are not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of others, which is a kind of sevens thing for me. Especially when I read Tarot de Marseille, the sevens to me are bringing my talents and my abilities of that suit out into the community. So that kind of echoes those things for me. And also beware of my own ego, my own smugness. Beware of trying to go for shortcuts or things that might, things that won't have any traction. Or attraction, right? Traction or attraction. And so the advice here is what? The advice here is the Ten of Wands, which is a troubling card. Let me show it to you right now. Here it is. There's the Ten of Wands. We've got these two snakes on these crosses, and we are led to believe that they are crucified on these tau crosses. And we see the 10 wands off on the side. We see the sun up in the sky. We also see the moon. We've got a balance here between sun and moon, which is good. We see that the red serpent in the front, we assume that is a living serpent, and the one in the back is a fossilized serpent, one that had been crucified, and what is left is the shell of its body. Life has left that serpent long ago. And we see at the bottom, we've got the zodiacal attributes being all of the fire signs. All of the tens in this deck are all of the signs of that element. So for here, the Ten of Wands points to Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, which are the domiciles of Mars, again, the Sun, and Jupiter, again, from which the cardinal fixed and mutable fire vital attributes enter our world. So all of those planets are beaming into and through their domiciles into our lives, into the world, into the question that we are trying to answer. So all of those fire attributes and their planets, we have a repetition of Mars, right? We had Mars in the Ace of Wands. We had Mars in the Seven of Wands. And Mars here. We've had Jupiter also in the detriment of the Seven of Wands, also repeated here as in its natural habitat of Sagittarius. So this card has deep, wonderful meaning. And sometimes I forget that these serpents are uniserpents. I'm sorry. They're like unicorns. They've got little horns on them, like is it the narwhal? Is it the narwhal that has a unicorn kind of protrusion from its forehead? Anyways, these serpents have horns, one horn each. So this card perhaps reminds us that the crucified serpent What is the purpose of our sacrifices? The guidebook asks. Heroism. What is the purpose of heroism? When the end of the story is always the same. It ends in death, right? So what has all that struggle and strife been for if we all end in the same place? I could also refer to the sacred trust that demands everything we have to give. Yeah, the trust that we give to those legendary heroes and heroines and beings of honor that we look up to, sometimes try to emulate, but are often too afraid to emulate. So we give our sacred trust to some of those heroes and demand that they give everything that they have to give. And perhaps here that is being asked of us, to give everything that we have to give. And that perhaps here, kind of like Pixie's art, we've got the guy with the 10 wands walking in a very awkward position, trying to get all these 10 wands ostensibly to their home. We see a line of houses in the near distance, not the very far distance, in the near distance. So it's the burdens card, right? So here we might be coming to the culmination of our labors, which is an interesting thing because that seems to be where I am now. But that's also interesting that we've got this idea of culmination here as advice for the beginnings of things here, right? So we've got a beginning at the beginning, we've got a culmination at the end, and in the middle, we've got these potential obstacles, and be careful of pride, be careful of smugness, but also have patience and give time and self-discipline and our own, what do I want to say? Our own self-empowerment. Give our own self-empowerment to pass through and around current potential obstacles and be sure that those obstacles are not our own self-limiting beliefs. And all of that is within the aspect of the nine of the nine of earth. Which points to potential conflicts of interests, potential conflicts of knowledge of the ways to do things, knowledge of the work to do. Which makes me think that this reading is not particularly, specifically just for today, but is for perhaps the next few days for me. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because today is Sunday, and tomorrow is, of course, Monday. And Monday, we are doing our first dress rehearsals of our stories. And then Tuesday, we're going to be doing the performance of our stories. And so this is like the next 2 days are the big culmination of what I've been working with and helping our students to accomplish during this camp. It's showtime, folks, right? And so there's that culmination is coming really quickly. And I've been feeling a lot of tension and a lot of stress internally about it, though I've been trying not to express it out there in the public. I've been feeling it, especially for one team in particular. I have 3 classes, just in case you're curious. One is number 3, one is number 4, and one is number 8. Now, the number 8 class, I have no worries about. Interestingly, I have very few worries about the number 3 class because their story is pretty simple. Now, the level of the classes are ordered from 1 to up to 17, I think, or 18. Anyways, they're ordered numerically by their abilities. So number 1 is the class with the least ability, in English particularly. And then the number 3 is pretty low. Number 4 is low as well. Number 8 is getting up towards the middle of the range. And they seem older. They seem a little bit more mature. The class of 3s is generally less mature, it's seeming, but there are 1 or 2 shining stars in that group that have helped that group to coalesce into a body of a functioning troupe, and they're pretty much on track. And again, there's the story that they're working on is not very complex. So I think they're pretty ready. It's the fours that worry me. They're not very well developed. Their leader is not, I allowed them to choose a leader that was not the best at leading. And the story they've created was above their level, their natural level of performance. So that, especially that class, has worried me a lot. And it's because for that class that I did the extra work I was talking about yesterday. So tomorrow is the beginning of the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the culmination, the beginning of perhaps my 10 of Wands. Now there is potential here, right? And in between that potential, there's another kind of potential of blockages and perhaps smugness, which perhaps this card is also echoing, right? The feeling I know better, arguments that could drain energy, the need for careful treatment of others. So all of that combined makes me really think that these cards are going to be for the next 3 days. Does that make sense? As I go into these next 3 days, I want to be careful of how I am interacting with other people. I want to be sure that I'm not pretending that I know better. I want to be sure that I'm working with people in a way that I'm nurturing and the potentials of others as well as my own potentials, and circumventing possible smugness, possible obstacles which I could be putting up in our own way, and moving and giving it all, because again, this 10 here is suggesting that I have the sacred trust in this project, and that it's demanded that I give everything that I have to give to the successful conclusion of it. I think that makes absolute sense, doesn't it? And to that end, I may not be able to record videos for the next 2 days. I'm not saying I won't, I'm saying I probably won't, because I am going to have 2 12-hour days back to back. I start the classes at 9 o'clock in the morning and I won't finish until 9 o'clock in the evening, and I probably won't have time in between to prepare. And if I don't prepare before 9 o'clock, I won't have time to film this video and then do all the stuff of editing and then rendering and then uploading. So I have a very strong feeling that I am not going to be able to record videos for the next 2 days. I'll probably come back after the performance is all over and we'll see where we are. Okay, so please forgive me for taking this break for a couple of days, but I don't really see another way around it. I'm not saying I will not post anything, but it's highly doubtful. So please come back. If you are still here, thank you for still being here. Thank you for following me this far on my journey with these decks. Please hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you like this and other people might enjoy this as well. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you haven't hit the alarm bell, hit the alarm bell so you know when the next video after this one is uploaded. And you can rush in and take a look at that too, to see how for me right now, the next 2 days will have unfolded. And hopefully the cards will give me something interesting for me to chew on over the next 2 days as well. I'm going to do a draw tonight to see what's happening. I might do a draw tomorrow as well as the day after that. But I don't think I'll have time to do videos. And I won't have time to analyze them like I do these. But we'll see. We'll see how I pick it up again after 2 days. Will I do all of my daily draws? Probably not. I'll probably focus on the daily draw from not tonight, not tomorrow night, but the night after that. Probably that's what I will do. But like I said, we'll see. So thank you for being here. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Send me some encouragement for the next couple of days if you can. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you are interested in getting a private reading from me, send me an email. My email is thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. I won't be able to do it tomorrow or the next day, but I can do it after that. I'll be freed up again. If you want to get these decks, I have links in the comments, in the description box below. So if you want to get this gorgeous, beautiful, amazing educational deck from Christine Payne-Towler called The Tarot of the Holy Light, that link is below. If you want to get the color version of the Egyptian Tarot, it's not my deck, it is the Egyptian Tarot, this one, there's an Amazon link to that in the description box below. It's very well, reasonably priced. It shuffles well. It's a rather small card. So if you have smallish hands, it's really not difficult to shuffle. Highly recommend it. If you want to look for the charcoal gray and white version, you can probably find one on eBay, but I've got a link to the modern one in the description box below. So friends, now, again, as always, thank you very much. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.